Why Leaderboard series to chop it up briefly. And I promise you guys this will be a special one because I know him. We've met on several occasions. Mr. John, I think the last time we met was in New York, right?
Yes, sir.
And it was on Other Business.
Other Business.
Yeah. So he walked in here this morning and said, yeah, Rev, I knew it was this guy I was going to meet. I believe this interview will bring hope to a lot of our listeners, especially the ones who are quite passionate about agribusiness. I think you are my fourth person in agribusiness I brought on here. John Dumelo was here. I think we had a minister join us somewhere around 2022, and then you are here as well. I'm very excited about this because it's a part where people shy away, whatever is brought up, but you can't do away with agriculture. Welcome, and good to have you here on the Why Leaderboard series.
Thank you, and it's really good to see you again, Rev. And I think that, like you said, last time it's pretty long ago, right?
Yeah, that's 2019, yeah, before COVID.
Exactly, before COVID, yes, and so it's really good to see you.
Perfect. So one bit of his life has to do with our media, so he's quite familiar with our media terrain because he has a brother, who has been around for a long time. He's worked with the Y brand, DJ Slim. So that's DJ Slim's big brother. Correct me if I'm wrong. Big brother, right?
Yes. So anytime I walk, and we look alike.
Yeah, you guys look alike.
I remember when we're in New York, somebody looked at us and said, "Are you guys?" The bartender was like, "Are you guys twins?" And I'm like,
"No, that's my kid brother."
And it's almost 10 years.
Yes, yeah. Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. Because there's a lady who comes after me. She's a pediatrician at Comfort Noche, so and Slim comes after her.
Okay, so I mostly start off with details on where you were born, and I know you serve us with that in the course of it, but Slim is into entertainment. Yeah. Do you have a bit of your life, especially with interest in that? Do you also have interest in creative arts, performance, being a performer growing up? Do you have it?
So this is what I've said mostly. It's quite interesting that Slim likes the microphone.
Okay.
And Slim's introduction to the microphone was really very, very, very early stages in his life.
Okay.
And this is something that most people wouldn't know. It's very close to the family. And because Slim would actually, and he's going to kill me for this.
He won't.
Slim would actually, Sunday school, those rehearsals, and he'll be preaching at church, with them.
Wait, hold on. Slim used to preach at church, Sunday school. Are you serious?
Yes, I am serious. So
the DJ Slim we know?
The DJ Slim we know.
Okay.
And I think we all introduced the microphone because of our father.
Okay.
Right. He does a lot of radio work from Liberia, in Ghana and many other places. So, but he's a professional accountant.
Yeah.
So we all have multiple skills.
Okay.
I don't really do much entertainment, but I'm actually into sports.
Okay.
And I've done sports for quite a bit in my life. Right from secondary school. So I was doing about 6 disciplines. I did discus, volleyball, hockey, lawn tennis, table tennis, basketball, and I did soccer as well.
Wow.
So I don't know where it came from, but I start with basketball.
Okay. That's a cool kid game in Kumasi.
Yeah.
If you don't play basketball, you can't be. So where did you used to play at in Kumasi?
I started off at KNUST.
KNUST, okay.
So then we used to call it Tech.
Yeah, Tech.
I went to what they call KNUST High now.
Okay.
But I then we call it Technology Secondary School.
Okay. I think it was Tech Sec. Yeah.
So Technology Secondary School. So that's where I started. So I literally lived on the campus for for all those years. So from Form 2 upwards to Upper 6, I was playing basketball and actually became in these days, if we're keeping like these days that people are very keen on records. I'm sure I would have been one of the youngest coaches ever to coach any regional team, because at age 18, 19, I was coaching the Ashanti Regional Basketball team.
Wow.
And this was a responsibility given to me by the then Ashanti Regional Basketball coach, who had gone on to further studies at Cape Coast University. There was a regional tournament coming, and he said, "Hey, Liberty, you know what? do this. So he actually wrote a letter to, and a very interesting letter. So that was the first time I've seen a letterhead with Ghana Sports Council, and then addressed to whom it may concern. You know, and so addressing that I be the coach because the coach is on leave. You know, so from the Sports Council to GES, then in
Ashanti Regional 18,
19 transitioning. You know, so. And a lot of lessons there. Maybe as we we have conversations. But I've been through sports and sports person since that time.
What kind of family did you grow up in? You've given us a fair picture of the kind of interest you guys had, but how fostering was your upbringing environment? If you had ideas on what to do, you did sports. Were they in sports, or you grew up in the type of family that would want you to toe a certain line?
So I used to play soccer, I mentioned, right? And I used to do court soccer. And, then football or soccer was not really, was fun, but people really have not realized financial gains out of that. So, parents were always like, books. And, coach football, Saturday and Sundays are like, your galamsey period, right? You get all kinds of teams playing. You get baby Kotoko, baby Hearts. And, I was playing for Golden Boys. And
would that be the Ashtown? Was that Ashtown?
So there was Ashtown, Bomso, and all that. I was roaming all over the place, Nice. So I was a mercenary. But I tell you a funny story. In my small local community in Bomso, where I grew up born, I was recognized as one of the good footballers. And the interesting thing was I could play the wing, I could play defense, and I could also catch. So I got into, boys are like, hey, you know what, there's this player game coming up. So they got me into the first game, and that was my first coach football. And it's a different ball game altogether. And these are all life lessons as I share as we go on. And they kicked the ball and it hit right in my face. That was my first
interest. That's unpleasant.
Exactly. And then, as I struggled to get vision back, the next thing I realized, the ball was right in front of me. And I used to have very good kicks, right? Very powerful shots, the Mohamed Gago kind of shots.
Those type of shots.
So I just picked the ball and I scored. And people were jubilating.
I mean, a good welcome to it.
It was an own goal.
Oh. So when you said you tell us an interesting story, that was a good twist.
It was a no-go.
So they hit you in the face. When you regained your sight, you had the ball right before you. When you felt that goal post was the opposite side, and you kicked it in. And I'm sure you might have jubilated for a minute.
Because the fans were jubilating, so I was with them for a minute, and then I realized that no, this
against your side.
This is not very good. So that's it.
So did you ever have interest in, or did you ever see yourself doing what you do now? Way back, be honest. Around your 18 years, around the time you were so immersed in sports, did you ever see yourself getting a career in agribusiness? Was this something you even knew about then?
I think I'm one of the craziest people you would find in a very calm body. And I say this because after my O-levels, I O-level, A-level, I studied accounting, economics, and all of those business subjects. I love them. My father was an accountant, so he helped me at home with my work and all of that. And, so it was something that I loved to do. But I think around age 14, 15, a certain gentleman came to our church and was talking about opportunities to really grow snails and export because there was a huge market for it and all of it. I started thinking, why aren't we even canning snails in Ghana? We're eating snails every day, and then I was also seeing on my mom's kitchen shelves canned mushrooms or canned this, canned that. So I was like, we should be able to do something like this, So that kept me thinking. But going a bit further back, I was part of the year 2 current JSS.
Okay.
When it was
When
reintroduced.
it was, yeah.
You know, so I was part of the year 2 batch. But my dad said, no, he wanted me to go into the regular, traditional secondary school. So I left after 1 year. But during that period, and that time, it was very practical. I love that.
Yeah, you'd go to the field.
You'd go to the field. So if it's TVET stuff that you had to do, if you had technical drawing, whether it's creative art, whatever,
Sculpture,
you're really doing it. You know, it was hands-on. And I really love the agric part. Making seed beds, doing your seed and all of that. And I think that time I got really connected to the soil from that period. So going through the traditional university and then studying accounting, economics, after all levels, I went to my father and I told him that I think I want to go to the agric college. I love agric. My father and my both parents grew up in the rural areas and they came to the cities. They did all their travels, across the world, but they still ended up doing farming, So my dad asked me, do you really want to do this?
Yeah,
I said
tough
yes.
question.
Because, I mean, out of the blues, you go to your father, you want to go to agri college. What happened?
Yeah.
So he asked me, so he and I had a deal. He said, finish
Thought
your
it was a
A-level.
deal. Okay.
Finish your A-level. After the 2 years or 1.5 years, if you're still interested in this, I'll support you to do it. So after A-levels, I went to him and said, you know what we discussed.
I'm still interested.
I'm still interested. I still want to do it.
Yeah.
And so I had to go through what is called, I would say, the hardcore agricultural training. Because I went to a school that most people will never know. It's called Kosmos Institute of Tropical Agriculture.
Is it quite so agric?
No, it's not quite so.
Okay.
Because I didn't study science. I didn't really, so I was a business student who was interested in it, so I had to find a pathway.
Yeah.
Into the mainstream. And so I went to ITA and that was where I started. And in that period when I was going to school, we got the prospectus for the school and
prospectus.
Yes,
heard that word in a
yes,
long
exactly.
time.
And you one of the items that you had to make sure you bring was a lantern.
Oh.
Which meant there was no light.
There was no light, yeah.
So when we went to see the place, my father asked me, do you really want to come? I said I would. Because for me, my goal at that time, this is a long version to answering your question though. My goal at that time was I wanted to learn something hands-on, something that I could do with my hands, something no one could actually take away from me, and build a very huge commercial farm. So that was what I was thinking at that time. And so that led me into the agri college. And then later, my father realized that the interest was still there. He saw another program at the University of Ghana. And then, he asked me to check it out. I checked that, I loved it, and then I continued to do that at Leventis. So I spent there also another year at the University of Ghana Research Station, studying farming, getting the input of research, and applying them to day-to-day farming practices. So I spent 1 year there, and then one time, so I went back home. So my father at that time had also started farming. He had citrus farm, and we're processing. So I started the processing, the factory from my mother's kitchen with my father. And we're growing the business gradually. So between school and home, I was supporting the business on the farm and then at the production.
You had it all figured out.
So it was like, for me, it has been part of my journey sometimes when we say that my profile says I've been involved in this for about 20 actually about 25 26 years now, and people start to think, how old is he? I am old, but not that old. But I started pretty early because I loved it. The whole concept of agriculture was something that fascinated me. So for me, it was like one thing that led to the other and the other. So I think after the Leventis training, I was supporting my father back home with the business. And one time my father, he liked school. He was teaching at the university. He taught in Liberia in the US. He taught in Kenya University as well. He was retired as a deputy finance officer at Kenya University. So, school was still part of the system. So he came to me and said, Yao, I think you still have a lot in you. Take another chance, go to school, I support. So then...
support word had come in
exactly,
again, yeah.
Exactly.
But this time without a deal.
Without a deal, So he was just trying to say that, look, try to do something.
Yeah.
And my life was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll take a chance, right? And so at that time, I had, and this is something that I will say, this is for the first time I'm publicly talking about it. I finished A-levels and I had some courses to have rewritten then.
Yeah,
but I'd chosen a different path that really didn't need that. Now, if I have to go to the university, which meant that
you'd have to start.
I have to start all over again.
Wow.
A-level was out of the system.
Wow.
So in life, one of the things that I've come to learn is humility. Learning how to take a step back, reanalyzing everything, and then taking a decision in the directions that you need to go. Sometimes people would see you walking around and doing all sort of things they think you never failed. I've failed before.
Wow.
And so when I told myself that, no, I'm going to go back. So, and one of the things that I was using to motivate myself is that even the fastest car has a reverse gear.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're just stuck,
you need to go back.
You need to go back and then be able to zoom forward if you really believe that you are the fastest.
It sounds like a decision you had, geared yourself towards. It sounds like you were ready for it. But of course, you had people around you. You had family. You might have had friends. You might have had colleagues, people you had started business with.
Yeah.
What was their reaction to this? You not wanting to, pick up the pieces from where you left, wanting to go back and start afresh.
Yeah. So in life, you come to realize that people really look up to you. So that decision alone in itself. So what that meant was that I had to go and do a 1-year SSS. Right?
Do the final. Yeah.
Do the final. And so I went to basketball, of course. That's one of my first love. My first love, I always say. I went to basketball court, and after the game, I told my very good friend then, it was the DK, that look, Jim, you won't be seeing me around the court for some time. And yeah, that's why I said this is a decision I've made, so I wouldn't be playing for about a year till I'm done. And I remember correctly, we're standing at the Pajo roundabout, as they call it at Ken USD. And he said, look, this conversation went for about 2 hours. He said, this is interesting, because he's also been thinking about something. And he had gone through the Wesley College as a trained teacher, and his parents have a school, Mary Montessori, So he said, you know what, we've been discussing stuff at home, and I'm going to, I think let's do this together.
Yeah, and I'm sure that wasn't what you expected.
No.
But that decision had unlocked something he had also planned to do.
So, I mean, my best friend, and we've all made this decision together. I mean, it was good. And guess what? 2 other friends joined. I don't want to mention their names here, but fine. 2 other friends joined. And so that is how we influence people, and we do not even know. So question for me, these were like big lessons, that whatever decision that you're making in life, there are people that will be impacted and people that will be influenced by them. So that was one big lesson for me. So that was the decision, and I said we'll go and do it, and eventually went through it. Ended up at Central University College to study agribusiness. But backtracking at Leventis, the program I took at the University of Ghana, I had met the agribusiness students who had come for field work. And they told me about a course, and I said to myself at that time, and things that we say to ourselves really work sometimes, right? I said, if I ever want to go to the university, because personally, frankly, that was not part of my plan. If I ever wanted to go to university, this is the course I would like to study. And fast forward,
you had
I had the opportunity to do that. And so I did agribusiness at Central University. And just before my graduation, I got a job with TechnoServe, because, relationships, again,
it comes to play.
It comes to play. At Leventis, I met a friend of mine, a gentleman, whom I work with now at KIC. And he had taken the course, now working with TechnoServe. Through the programs and all of that, I became an entrepreneur at some point. I was selling yogurt. I was, making yogurt and selling yogurt. So I had a product called Benji's that I was selling all over.
I'm sure it was big on campus.
It was big on campus, and amongst friends and families, it was a very big, and I supported myself, pretty much well through college at some point with
the funds you had raised from that.
I raised from that. That's another story we can talk another time. So he saw me one afternoon, holding lots of yogurt gallons going to deliver to clients and all of that. And he told me about a project that they were going to be taking, and said, he would love to work with me on that, and he would make a recommendation. He made a recommendation. The HR called me for interview. I'm sure they might have interviewed a few other people. Yeah. And when they spoke to me, they said they liked me. And so before I graduated, I got a job with TechnoServe. And so more like, okay, come do your national service, transition to a job, and it was just like that.
Wow.
Yes. And that led into so many other things to where we are now.
I love where we are now. I won't lie. And I'm loving the story as well because, I know your team probably never knew you had also failed at some point. And I think, I don't know, I haven't shared this on radio before, but just so we match up, I also had a few. In uni, I had also been raised in Kumasi. My first touch of Accra was coming to Legon. I tried 2 years with KNUST. I was trying to do law. I think around that time, Professor Kondia was the head of, the law department. They rejected me for 2 years. So I just gave Accra, a thought at some point. Tried, and then for the first time, they picked me, came in, fell in love with radio. I mean, it was with me then. Back then, I wanted to be with Capital Radio. In JHS, I had tried. They had like a student program for JHS students, the brilliant JHS students. I picked them from Maria Montessori, what's the name, KNUST, Armed Forces, where I went. And they would place us on radio on Saturdays at Garden City and Asqua. Right. So I had it in me, but I put it to pause because I definitely had to, challenge myself with other things. Came to Accra, and then now this is Accra. Every opportunity is here. I mean, just at the Accra Mall is YFM, Foresight TV's at Latabi Okoshi, and the radio stations spread all across. Unlike Kumasi, where, they are in corners. Yep. So I had to pick that, challenged myself with that. It worked, but, it worked to the detriment of other courses. So I failed some, and at some point I had to go back. Yeah. And this was when I had already picked up in this business. I was known, One day I just took a decision to go back and get my rewrites done. Told my friends, and they also went back. And today, some have started their business, premium bottles. Jerome is in East Legon. I always say hi to him whenever I mention this. He started, also went back with the motivation I gave him. So there are times we need to just put everything to pause and then rethink certain things. Not be afraid to relearn or fall back to ground zero. Just re-strategize and then go back harder. It will motivate other people and, cause a change. I'm sure if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here today.
Absolutely. On learning and relearning, they're always very necessary. And in a current job that we do, it's daily. Yeah. There are some decisions that you take and you realize that this didn't work. And like I always say, and as I've said this, just be honest. And this has always been, is one of the key things my mom shared with me. My mom doesn't say much. We have all kinds of conversation, but when it comes to like advising you and all of that, she'll always say, be honest with yourself.
Speaking about honesty, though, not to cut you, can you kindly put the headphones on for me? Yes, I want to play you a sound. I'm told it's one of your favorite sounds. My DJ just sent this to me. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Good morning, boss. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I want to say shout out to Liberty.
Please, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is DJ Slim.
So, guys, DJ Slim is on the line. DJ Slim is, Mr. Gyan Kesse's kid brother. And I think in the beginning of the interview, you talked about him. Slim, we have your big brother in here. Through you, I met him in New York, I think 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Such a wonderful person. Today, we're listening to his life story. He's sharing so much with us. You grew up with him. What sort of brother was he growing up? What kind of things did he have interest in, from your point of view?
Nah, people don't know that he's I don't know if he said that already on the show. He's an excellent basketball player. He's a three-pointer.
Yeah, and he just told us you also were a preacher back in school.
Yes, I did some small work with the evangelism ministry. But, he's an amazing person. He's very, very fun to be with, and he understands. He's not that type of big brother who just, push you out to the side, hey, make you do this thing type. No. He's cool. He's cool and very, very loving guy. I've learned a lot from him. Anything that he puts his mind to, he's able to achieve it. And that's one thing I like about him. He's resolute in whatever he wants to do. He has a mission, and if the mission is not complete, he doesn't rest. And I believe it's one attribute of Mr. Benjamin Gyan Kesse that everybody should take from this interview. He's been through a lot. I've seen him go through a lot. Like firsthand, I've seen him go through a lot. But to see him at this level, big bro, congratulations. You do everything, and I'm learning a lot from him. He doesn't know. I just steal from him. I just still plenty for him. But,
very necessary.
He's not aware. He's not aware, but I still plenty for him. And when the time came, I told him that I was moving to, I would move to Accra. I know he was asking me a series of questions like this, but I know what he was driving at because I'm in his mind most of the time before he even talks. I'm in his mind. I've been with him, and I know how he's passionate he is about the agri sector and agribusiness. He's been like that from ever since I could start speaking ABCD. He's been like that. So, Charlie, congratulations, my big brother.
Slim, that's very thoughtful. That's some nice words from you. You mentioned something I'd like to pick off. You said you've learned so much from him, things he's not even aware of. What's that one thing you've learned from your brother, or a moment he's really impacted your life that you haven't shared with him before? Something you haven't told him,
He never takes no for an answer, right?
Yes.
He never takes no for an answer. And I remember, going through one difficult part of my life, with school, academics and all that. And this guy was like, Charlie, this is not the end of your life. See, if this school no go pick you, this school will pick you, go here. And then learn from that mistake and move on. Okay. Ever since that, I've been that type of person. I'm never heartbroken.
And that's
everything
true.
Is a lesson
that's
for me.
true. That's true.
Everything
personally,
is a lesson for
I know.
Me. He put that thing in me that, Charlie, no love lost, no love gained, Charlie. All that it is to life is lesson. So just learn the lesson and move on, and it's going to work for you. And he's been an inspiration. He's a big inspiration.
Nice
he's
one.
A big inspiration to me.
He's listening to you. Would you like to say any final words to him? He's just here smiling, by the way.
Libe.
Joe.
Joe, Charlie, congratulations, man. Charlie, I love you, my bro. Charlie, I love you so much, man. And keep doing what you're doing. Charlie, media I did by you 247. We get it.
God and country.
Slim, Charlie, thank you so much. I know you're also on radio, so we're gonna leave you. Do your thing. We love you so much. We'll definitely link up sometime soon. I'm told sometime very, very soon we're gonna link up. So Yabekasa,
definitely.
All right. So that's DJ Slim, Ben's brother, Libe. So Liberty. How did that nickname come about, though? Was that a nickname or?
Yes, and for a lot of people in the basketball circles and even other part of my life, they think that is actually my real name.
Okay.
So when people see my photo and Benjamin Gyan Kesse, and there's no Liberty on it, they get a bit confused because they know I have a brother who looks like me, so they're thinking, is that
Maybe
him or So let me tell you the story. I told you my father taught in Liberia, right? So we had visited my father in Liberia. The whole family was slim. Slim was a tiny one running around, and when we came back, my big brother has changed schools from Kumasi Academy to TechSec.
Okay.
And I told you my father wanted me to leave the JSS and get into tradition, so I got into TechSec. And my brother was already Form 4 going Form 5. So he had like a year in the school. And he had a nickname called Liberty. And the story was that they asked him which school he attended whilst he was in Liberia, and he said Liberty High. And so the whole class started calling him Liberty.
Liberty.
Now, I get into the school, and they see me, and he says, this is my younger brother. They said Liberty 2.
Oh, okay. And that's the thing in Kumasi. I mean, your big brothers nickname you automatically inherit.
And there are quite some number of families, the Bicats and all of that, Cat 1, Cat 2. So for me, I am more or less inherited. But it saved me for a lot of trouble, from homos and all of that, So that was it. And I think sports also kept it. So my coach who recommended me for the coaching job with GES, when he had to write the letter, he actually came to me and said, Liberty, what is your real name?
Because everyone knows you as Liberty.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's.
I think in the beginning, when you were even talking about when your dad called you to talk about agriculture, he called you Liberty.
No, he calls me out.
Okay.
He knows he knows our nickname. He never calls us by a nickname. One time he said something which was very interesting. He said, because we're in his car and we saw friends from school, my brother and I, so Liberty. And my father said, it's good to have all of these now, but make sure you're doing things right in life so that you can continue to enjoy it. Not now you're seen at a place high, and then in the next time there's not you cannot be found in the system, so keep doing good stuff and growing in the right manner, and then you'll be able to maybe sustain all of these cheers coming your way.
So after you got the job with the
TechnoServe,
yes, how long did you stay with them, and at what point did the urge to have your own business set up running come in?
Right. So I had my business. I said I had it whilst I was in school. So my aim of joining TechnoServe was not to really stay there for long. It was basically to make money.
Okay, I'm awesome.
And then reinvest in my business, right? So I got a whole setup somewhere around Mateko. I rented a place. Did all those standards that put in the standards that
and Mateko because it was close to Central University.
Central University, yes. And I was living around that area, and so I had 3 permanent staff at that time, and I had some agents that were also doing sales for me at that time. So I was applying back my irregular income into the business, in the idea that it would grow and then eventually I'll leave, because I always want to have like something. And I would say that I started this entrepreneurship thing way before I understood the word entrepreneurship. It was just naturally in me. And so at TechnoServe so I started in 2007, and in 2010 I wrote my resignation letter.
Wow.
And for many other reasons, but primarily I wanted to get back to my business. I thought that it was suffering without me because I had not really done a lot of nurturing well for the staff to be able to take the vision, and the job that I was doing was pretty demanding because I was on the field almost every time. We're training cocoa farmers, as the profile would say. We work with Winco on their cocoa Abaopa program, so I was always on the road, traveling from one community to the other. I mean, now I can say there's no part in this country that I do not know. And I've driven on all the roads in this country, if I can say that, so from the north down south, east, west, Volta, everywhere, so it was taking a lot of time. Imagine you're driving more than 5,000 kilometers every 4 weeks.
What?
So almost every 4 weeks, I had to take my car
That's,
for
that's what
servicing.
people do for like 6 months,
Exactly.
over 6 months.
So that was my life back then. And I was thinking, I love to impact the farmers. And for me, that joy was also because I always looked at them as, these guys are in a rural community, they're trying to make a living, you've learned something, you've acquired knowledge over the period. Don't forget, before Central University, I've done about 3 years of practical agriculture, plus in processing, plus
the citrus.
So I was really neck deep and collected a lot of information. So I was happy impacting the farming community, right? But I was also thinking,
I mean, this is you working for someone's brand and still making an impact, but then you had your own vision and you had to fall back
and the
to
business was suffering at some point. And so I had to take a bow from TechnoServe, and then I left in March 2010.
You are definitely a hard-working person. It was still in line with what you loved. What was the reaction of your employers when you decided to take a bow?
Well, mixed feelings.
Okay.
Mixed feelings. But of course, you would be missed for some people. Others, well, he was just a member of the team. So it was like that. But I think mostly for our clients at that time, that was Wienko, Coco, Abrewapa, they shared a lot with me that they would miss me a lot because they could feel the impact we're making with the farmers and all of that. But see, the world has a very interesting ways of doing things. So that's what Slim said. I've been through a lot. And, there are a lot of twists and turns. So I left in March trying to push my business. And maybe I don't know if I can say this on air, but I was pushing it to a point where every Friday at some point, down just this road, there's a very famous building down here, the house down here, right?
The Shangri-La?
The former president's house.
Oh, okay.
Every Friday, I had to actually be supplying them with yogurt. So I was pushing hard, but I was also stressed. I didn't have enough money. I also didn't want to ask anybody. So in life, I'm learning. One of the key things I've come to learn is ask, because I think I should have been asking for help, and I wasn't asking for help. And there was this lady there, Auntie Mary. I haven't heard from her in a long while. She was very kind to me. She actually one day said, "Look, I need to get you to get the standard board certification, FDA certification." She actually asked me to come. I got there. She put me in the car and took me to the standards board. She liked my product. She would give me feedback every week. Days that it didn't go well, she would let me know. She said, "Ben, this time we had to even pour it out for the dogs to take it." But if it goes well, she'll give you feedback. And I don't know, I had no connection. It was a Rotarian who had known me and the work that I did for Rotary, and I will talk about that later, that introduced me
to Auntie Mary.
And that was it. And she was so nice. So I don't know if anybody knows where Auntie Mary is, but I would really, really love to be connected back to her, because she did help me a lot at that point, So yes, at that time, so I pushed the product. Life has its own ways of doing things. And my younger sister always says that sometimes you're at a place where God says you need to move. And so you're on a tree, and the first thing is a leaf will fall, and you're not moving, an ant will fall, and maybe
the whole branch
a bird may pull on you, and now a whole branch or a wind will take you out, right? So right in front of Pokey House, one early Monday morning, I was, making some deliveries and all of that. I made some sales, and I was attacked.
Wow.
Armed robbers. 11 a.m. right in front of
11 a.m.
Yes, 11 a.m. Airport residential area, Pokey House, I think, to the former UN General Secretary's house. 11 a.m. Gunpoint, knife point. And these guys on the bike just took everything.
Your cars.
Everything.
They took products.
Everything. and the products were left, you know, but everything took everything, and it was tough. Fast forward, a few weeks later, I was trying to register my business with NBSSI to get some training and support. Then NBSSI, now GEA, being run by Kose Yankee, amazing woman. Really admire her work that she's done with GEA. Brilliant stuff she's done. And then I took my letter to NBSSI, and then I came back home. I've been boggled. Everything's taken.
Wait, this is a couple weeks after your cash was gone.
Yeah. And meanwhile, so I would still be, you know, and it was.
And you still walk shoulder high, and you, at that point you were still not asking.
No, I was still not asking. My mom, my dad will call. Mostly my mom will call. You know, ask how's everything going? Yeah, to say maybe aboko, nyami adu maybe aboko ye. Ejuman to say nyami adu ye kaka. You know, that was it for me. It was. So I got to a point sometime in December. I was with a friend of mine, and we had gone to play basketball, and at prisons headquarters, and wanted to get food. There was this around Elwak. There was this restaurant, forgotten the name, and so we're going to get food from there. So there, I met the HR manager for Cocoa Papa.
Okay.
We were friends.
You had worked with them
worked
in the
with
past,
them
yeah.
in the past, you know. And we're chatting. I was asking about everybody, and I asked for a certain guy, and then he said he was no longer with them, and all of that. And you know, I'm like, interesting. I think he saw in my eyes that this guy would like to take
fill the
job.
vacant spot. Yeah.
And he said, oh, if you want it, you can apply, because we'll be running interviews the next couple of weeks, because by January we want to fill the position. And I know the position was also pretty important, because it was the training and development manager, which manages, it was a cooperative. So all the training for the farmers, business skills.
And these were things you were familiar with.
These were things I was doing on a daily basis with them. So I said, okay, you know what, I'll give it a thought. So I called, and this was, you see, life has its own way. When we were working with Cocoa Ropa from the technical side, there was this gentleman who came to fill the chief accountant position. And this gentleman knew my family before I was born.
Wow.
So when he saw me, he thought I was my bigger
Your
brother.
big brother.
So he actually called me by my big brother's name. I said, no, I'm the other one.
Yeah.
Like, he said, hey, when you said, you know, because he hadn't seen me for a long time. For over 25 years, he had not seen me, you know. So I remember picking the phone, calling two persons from Kokwaba. I called Dr. Estian Pofo, greetings to him if he's listening. And then I asked him about it, and he said, oh, if you want to, you can apply. And I called Stephen Ayambila at Tineri, and Stephen said, oh, you can if you want it, you're even overqualified. You know the system. For you, we don't even need to do orientation,
no
just
training,
keep you know, so apply. So they all encouraged me to apply. So I did apply. But guess what? Before I applied, I was like, no, let me give it a last shot. I went to park my car at my friend's office, MVP Hair Products, Slade Industries at Circle area. And I parked the car there, and I told him that I was going to Kumasi. You know what I was going to do? That was the time I wanted to go and ask.
So I mean, you parked around that side. I think it's around the former STC side.
Exactly. So I gave you that location because that should tell you that I was heading somewhere. I didn't have enough money for fuel to drive home, so I had to find a safe place to park. And my friend helped me with the parking space, and then I said, okay, I'm heading home.
Just give it a last shot. Let me go ask for support and see if I can run my own thing still. How did that go?
I get on the bus. And I get a phone call. And don't forget, at that time I've been robbed. And then I don't have anything, you know. So I had this, black, some yam phone.
What we would call yam today.
you know. And it was beeping heavily in the bus. And I just picked it. And it was from the HR manager. And he said, from Cocoa Ropa, he said, we heard you're interested in the job. If you are, apply because there'll be job interviews the Tuesday, and this was Friday.
And you're already on the bus.
I was already on the bus. So I get home, I didn't ask. I just went to look for a computer because my laptop, everything was stolen. So I had to look for the desktop at home.
Carry it.
And then try to retrieve every information, my CV updated. I had to ask my former manager from TechnoServe to send me my old CV to update, for asking to review for me. And I sent to the guys. And Tuesday morning, I asked my dad if I could borrow his car to travel to Dunkwa from Kumasi. He said, okay, go ahead. So I did. And I came back. It was a very long interview for almost 2 hours. Because I had worked with them before. I'd left the previous organization. They had a lot of questions, which is obvious, right? You know, so we went through it and all of that. But at the end of the day, they gave me the job. So I left Accra going to Kumasi to ask for help. And by the time I came back to Accra,
you had a job.
I had a job.
So you didn't have to ask.
I didn't have to ask eventually. So again, the plan was make some money. And then go back into it. But whilst there, I mean, talking to where to bringing it to where I am in this space, agri-tech and all of that. Whilst there, I've always been interested in technologies, right? How we can improve the agricultural value chain, the space, how we can look. There's so many things I was reading from the American agricultural ecosystem, the European and all, and I thought there's so much opportunities here that we were missing. You know, so I kept asking myself questions. How can we do this? How can we do that? So I got introduced to a company called Isoko.
Okay.
And I got to understand what they were doing. I'm like, this is a very great thing. How do we incorporate what Isoko is doing into our cocoa value chain? So we had a project with them. There's a company called Prestat in the UK that was making artisanal chocolates producer, producing for the Queen of England and all of that, and wanted to support some cocoa farmers using some of these technologies. So I became the liaison. Now I was learning more about that, how this platform works. And guess what? A year, 2 years later, there was an opening, and then I took it.
There you go again.
At Isoko. So I moved from Dunkwa back to Accra, and this time I was coming to work with Isoko as the head of business development.
Was it because the opportunity offered you a new learning chance? You know, it was inclining you more towards the technology side?
Yep.
So that means it wasn't money that motivated you?
See, there's something that anytime I told my dad I was getting a new job, until the last one I told him that this was happening, he always said, okay, it's good, go and learn.
Yes, and go and learn, that's the word, not go and make extra cash.
No, so for him it was like, pick as much knowledge as you can, because they all come to full circle at some point. And for me, I think going through all these rudiments, or my mom would say, your life has never been a straight one. You've gone through lots of curves to be able to get to where you are, and that is the truth, because the lessons along these curves are the things that you carry with you to the point where you want to be. And so yes, it was more like, how do we harness technology to really create development, to deepen the impact of development, create more opportunity for more people? Because working in the cocoa industry for almost 10 years put together, I saw so many opportunities, but I realized we were not really harnessing it. And you could see that, look, most cocoa farmers at that time, and I'm pretty sure that even till now, would say that they don't want their kids to be cocoa farmers, or they don't want them to get into agriculture. Just yesterday, I was in Takoradi Technical University. I met a young guy. So on the Monday, and we'll talk about our program and why I was at Takoradi Technical University. I was speaking, and he was one of the loud guys in the crowd, and in my remarks, before I started my remarks, I was asking them we have a chant, Ahoy, Ahoy, and I said I wasn't feeling it. And then he said, oh, there's no fire in the belly. And this is what we say, one of our slogans as KIC, that you need to have fire in the belly to be an entrepreneur. And I started from that, and then that was what I leveraged to really give my remarks. Afterwards, he came to me and said he wanted my phone number, he wanted to talk to me, and I said, okay, it would be nice to talk to you, but I'd rather give you my email address.
Yes.
Write to me. So for me, that was, you see, now I'm moving away from let's talk, right, because that goes with a lot of thoughts, right? So the guy will now sit down exactly what he wants to.
Yes,
ask
precise.
me. Exactly.
Yes, it's detailed.
Exactly. So I said, write to me. Let's have that conversation on email. So I didn't give him my phone number. He took my email address, which was great.
Did he send?
So he's not sent yet because they just finished the program yesterday. It was pretty late. I left Takoradi pretty late. I go home quite late. So you see, my eyes are red. You
need to go and rest.
Yes, but see, I met him yesterday. I was doing some rounds to check the engineering department because, you see, like I said, there are so many opportunities in agriculture. There are a lot of industries or a lot of sectors in our economy or departments in various schools that links to agriculture.
Yes, it's connected, yeah.
We are always doing them in silos. So for us at KIC, we're trying to see how we bring all of these together. And so I was doing some rounds to check the engineering department, the kind of machineries they have, because we want to encourage the students to really build real products that can impact agriculture in Ghana and across the continent. And I met this gentleman again, and I said, tell me, why did you join this program? Because this was now one-on-one. I was waiting for my guy to take me around. So I had a bit of time. I said, tell me, why did you join this? He said, look, my father is a cocoa farm somewhere around Inziba. And he has this huge cocoa farm. He's making money. He's sending us all to school. He doesn't want any of us to study agriculture.
That's weird.
And he said he sat down, and he's studying graphic design at TTU. He sat down and he said, what happens? I'm the only boy in my family. My father, there are 3 girls, and he's and a boy. So he's the only boy. So with the other siblings, he believes that once the father is no more, somebody has to take over. So when he heard about this, he thought this was an opportunity for him to really learn. And I said, great. Now, in our program, we always encourage people to identify talent and bring them together to form a business team that pitches an idea. And I said, you are here at TTU. I believe there are some hospitality people doing food science, whatever. Identify these talents, identify some business talents, some marketing talents, and this is what I will encourage you to do. Ask your father for some cocoa beans and tell these people that you want to do bean to bar chocolates. Learn, because these skills abound. CSIR does some trainings and all of that. Let me know if you really want to do this. We'll connect you to them. And for me, that conversation, I believe, and I've had many of such, and I've seen how they've transformed. Before you realize, this young man would have perhaps put together a team, and I've started this. And maybe in the next 5 years, there's some guy somewhere in Inzima who's processing bean to bar chocolates and shipping it across the globe. And that is what, for me, it's inspiring. But, like to my point, my experience over the period, I wasn't seeing, and it's the same thing the man was doing. Do study something else, not agriculture. How do we now get those currently in agriculture feeling the impact that they can build wealth and see that, okay, now we can build generational wealth from agriculture. And so, therefore, the technology is very important, how we can really bring all of that into agriculture and deepen the impact.
And that would primarily be the vision and mandate of Kosmos Innovation Centre. With that mentioned, I want you to tell us some of the programs currently being run by the centre and the opportunities they offer for young entrepreneurs. The project you're on, you just touched on the experiences you've had, but what are some of the other projects you have going, and how do my listeners tap into it?
Certainly will share. Right, so we have a program starting from the the high schools or junior high schools. So we have a partnership with Blue Skies Foundation on the school farm competition. The school farm competition basically is saying, let's bring back the school farm concept. Let's get young people interested in agriculture. Let us show them opportunities in agriculture. In the past, whilst you're in secondary school, they punish you. They say, go and read the school farm, right? Now, so it wasn't looking attractive. Was looking more like a punishment.
A punitive something.
Exactly. So how can we make agriculture attractive, sexy enough for young people to say, this is a space that I want to? And per my experience, like my story, I was introduced to it very early, and then I was connected to the soil, and therefore I feel like if we introduce 20,000 young people into it, maybe 5 or 50 of them or 100 of them, but the impact that we'll feel from the 100 could be feeding the whole country and perhaps, more to the part of the other parts of the continent, So that is what we're trying to do. I mean, with the school farm, they were in Eastern region, and I think they were focused in Eastern region, and we have been very fortunate to be supported by a great partner, the MasterCard Foundation, to really deepen the impact of our programs that we run. So we went to them and said, look, this is a great program. We want to be a partner. We want to really expand this impact across the country. And they were at 40 schools, 60 schools, and since last year, we have moved from that 60 schools, and we are in 257 schools across the country.
It's impressive.
In 11 regions across the country. So our goal is that next year we would get to over 400 schools across the 16 countries.
As you capture five more regions.
Yes, we will add 5 more regions, so we will add more to it. And we want to deepen that impact. And if you get to hear the stories from the students who have been part of it, it is amazing. The lessons, the life lessons, and all of that. It would really blow your mind. Now that is a school farm competition.
Okay.
For junior high, senior high.
To the next level.
The next level. Just to give you a bit of history, because I think I cannot talk about the programs without talking about the history of KIC.
Yeah, it's allowed. Yeah.
Right. Now KIC, as Kosmos Innovation Centre, it started off as the corporate social investment program from Kosmos Energy, the energy company. And this was part of, after going through a lot of corporate social responsibility programs, and they decided that, look, let us look for something that would deepen our impact in the community. Okay. When oil and gas were, Kosmos discovered oil, everybody thought this was the panacea to unemployment, right? And so people started moving to Takoradi. And yesterday, 2 days, I was driving around Takoradi, and I see what the state of Takoradi, not too interesting. But people thought that it was going to change everything, especially create so much employment. But the technology being used does not really allow that. And the kind of drilling that doesn't really allow that. Now, how do we, as an organization, as Kosmos, asking themselves, how do we help in the community that we operate, support job creation? And Kosmos Energy was formed by what we always say entrepreneurs. They're working with different organizations, came together with their skills, and then formed Kosmos Energy, came to Ghana as part of their first business, and got oil. How do we imbibe these same entrepreneurial skills, the drive,
into the community?
How do we let people understand that amongst identifying problems would also help you to identify solutions and solve them commercially?
To bring returns.
Exactly. So then that became an agenda for the Kosmos team to come up with a program, and they came up with Kosmos Innovation Centre. When they came up with the Kosmos Innovation Centre, it is, what we're working is a template, right?
Okay.
It can be turned into any sector of the economy, but they wanted to find out which part of the economy would really
thrive,
will be impacted greatly. And they looked at many, and then they settled on agriculture for many reasons.
So it could have been mining, it could have been industries,
yes.
But you decided to go to agriculture because it had the most impact if attention was given to it.
Because we have aging farmers. Young people are not interested in agriculture.
And agriculture is the backbone of the economy.
The potential for agriculture to employ a lot of bodies. So they looked at that and said, let's go into this area and see what we can do to really get young people paying attention. So they created a challenge, like a business competition challenge, more or less, calling it Kosmos Innovation Centre Agritech Challenge. So the Agritech Challenge previously until last year, we would go around the country, select about 120 after going through a lot of filtration application process, and then we would put these 120 into a 10-month training program, fully paid. And they'll go through all their market research, they'll go through developing their minimum viable products. They would now come and pitch their MVPs and their ideas to a panel we call the ideation team. And all of that, it's the staff and other partners from KIC giving them feedback along the way. And then they would, at the end of the day, we'll select some of the businesses or some of the ideas. So initially we're selecting 2 ideas every year. But we later got some few other friends who said we will give you some money to improve on the number of businesses you invest in. And so we're giving $50,000 from the beginning. So an idea, good idea, would say receive $50,000 for you to really build your MVP fully, build a startup, and then we'll also incubate you. And so from 2016, I joined to about last 2 years. Every year we're giving up to about $50,000 to some companies. Some of them include Trotro Tractor. We've had a Complete Farmer, Agro Innova, quite a number of businesses. Quite a number of the agri-tech startups that you see in Ghana mostly are coming from KIC.
That's nice.
Now, fast forward into where we are now. We started having conversation with the MasterCard Foundation, and they wanted us to really deepen the impact across the country. And so we also took feedback. We always tell our participants that feedback is a gift. And they also give us feedback. And if there's any organization that works with feedback more than a KIC, I don't know. We work with feedback. We know we're not perfect, but we want to be there, close to that perfection. So we're listening. And one of the things that most of the entrepreneurs were saying is that we wish we knew all these things whilst we were in school. So the opportunity to now deepen the impact of KIC, we took that feedback and did some tests with the schools and realized that it would work. So now we created the Ice Agritech Challenge that we have then. We split it into 2. So we have the classic, where we do a lot of the education, exposing you to the opportunities in agriculture, the opportunities, the value chain, and then you will also be able to build your minimal viable product. And all of these are fully funded by the MasterCard Foundation. And then you would, out of that group, the selected one, I don't want to say the best one because
all the ideas are good.
Yeah, all the ideas are good, right? The selected ones would get into what we call the Agritech Challenge Pro. At a Pro, we would have 15 of the selected ones are from the universities, and then we'll go across the country and select other 15, and then we'll put them also, we'll add them to it. And all of that, you must have had your MVP. Your business must have been in existence for at least 3 to 6 months. At least 3 months, and then also less than 3 years. So we go through all of that, and then those at the Pro would pitch, because that is an investor readiness program.
So the 15.
So that would be 30 in total.
From the Pro and then the Classic.
Exactly. And then they will pitch for investment. And then at that point, KIC team and other partners will sit down and analyze all the pitches, all the business ideas, all the teams. And at KIC, there's something that we say. We always say that we invest in the jockey and not the horse.
Sounds good.
We invest in the jockey and not the horse. And the reason is that if you invest in the right people, not just the idea, sometimes the ideas may suffer. But do you have the right people behind idea, to even look at that we are suffering and we may have to pivot, or we may have to unlearn and relearn to move on. Part of the stories that I shared, with you. And so we always focus on the people. So get the right people and then invest in them. So we will invest in a group. And last year we invested in 8 companies. The maximum was 50,000. The least was $10,000. And this year, about 2 months ago, we invested in about I think 13 companies. Altogether was $350,000 that we invested in these startups. So talking about our programs, now we have the School Farm. We have the Agritech Classic, and we have the Agritech Challenge Pro. And we also work with SMEs. And the SMEs program, we run some boot camps, we give them aftercare support, and then we have what we call the Investor Day. So we connect with investors
also
across
pitch
the
as
globe,
well,
and then they would come. And then they will also pitch their businesses. So for SMEs that are over 3 years and are looking to scale their businesses, that is the Business Booster program. That is what they would also have to get into. And we have also we have special focus for women. Lesson. So we realize that agriculture is difficult in quote unquote, right? So many women think it's not for them. Technology, sometimes women think it's not for them. And you're putting these two together. So we realize we're losing a lot of women participation. So we created what we call the Women's Boot Camp. And initially, the whole idea was to use that to push the numbers of the women participation, to really get women in the industry to also engage the young women who may want to understand the space. And so we did that. And that was also helping us. Our goal is to really have, at the minimum, 50%. At the minimum, it should be par. But of course, our partners, the MasterCard Foundation's goal is to do 70%, and we also want to really get to a point where we can match that. So that is something that is there. So the Women's Bootcamp is also one of our programs, and then we are also focusing on that. And now we have what we call the Young Agripreneurs Forum. And this is a student club, also initiating the students into agriculture, giving them the opportunity to learn and see the adjacent business opportunities, or just even for knowledge.
You want to catch them young.
Yes.
I like that. So all these are very interesting programs you have under your umbrella, very detailed as a matter of fact, and it moves me to my next question. I have a lot of my listeners texting me to ask how they take advantage of this. When is your next program? When are you rolling out the next? I think you said about 2 weeks ago you wrapped up with one. How do people even get in touch with Kosmos, Innovation Centre? How accessible are your programs?
Right. Our programs are very, very accessible. Right. So if you want to be in the Agritech Challenge Classic program, you would have to go to our host universities. And maybe with your permission, we can share the host universities, and maybe even on your social media platforms and all of that, we could actually get it. So we have KNUST for Ashanti. We have KNUST, UNER, that's the University of Environment and Natural Resources. We have Legon, University of Ghana. We have UCC. We have UDS, we have UBITS, Takrady Technical University I mentioned,
TTU,
HTU, Ho Technical University, Koforidua Technical University. Who am I leaving behind? I think I've forgotten the 10th one.
That's fine. So what we'll do is, guys, if you're locked in now, especially for my tertiary students, I think on Saturday, just tune in to the Campus Express. It starts at 12. We'll put more details on that out so we can, know the host universities if you want to get on. Delphina will pick the details, and then we can have it on the Saturday campus show. That is mainly dedicated for our people on campus, so they can find the details. So tune in on Saturday. I will definitely get the info and then share it on our social media as well. What about the other programs?
Right. So for the universities, so these are host universities, and that does not mean that if you must only be a university
Yes,
student.
you can be an SME.
You can be a graduate, and you can take advantage of the programs at the universities. Now, the pro, we're going to open the pro application sometime later in the year, because the pro follows the Agritech Challenge Classic. The Classic is 7 months, the pro is 5 months. So just before the Classic finishes, around October, thereabout, we would now roll out the application for the pro. And we currently have our Business Booster applications open. So if you're an SME looking to scale your agribusiness, go to any of our portals, social media platforms. You'll find a link there, Business Booster 2023 cohort. Just click the link and then you can apply. If you're a farmer-based organization, you can also apply, because farmer-based organizations are also businesses supporting farmers, and we'll be happy to work with a lot of these farmer-based organizations to support them to have a very good business, FBOs.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Gyan Kesse. I'm enjoying this interview. Messages came in from Exhibit the Baba inside Old Ningo. Exhibit, good morning. Thank you so much for always making time with us. So, as a father, a business executive, how do you create that work-life balance? It's a thing I ask a few of my guests. What are some of the values you live by as a father? Things you can apply to your business and apply to your home as well. Things you want to share to my upcoming, agri-hopefuls.
The balance, as they will say, sometimes it's not balanced.
It's not balanced. It's never balanced.
Right, it's not balancing, especially as you have to be on the road a lot more. I really didn't envisage myself being on the road, like it is happening now, but work demands it. So you need to find a balance. Say you're tired, but you need to be there, and my domestic dictator, quoted unquote, as somebody said, say, be present, whilst you're there. And so that is what you need to do. And I think life is all about balance, right? There's sometimes you need to, and like I shared, you learn from the mistakes. So if it didn't work well, it didn't work well. Work with the feedback and always try to do better than yesterday.
All right. Thank you so much. So these are some of the questions I have from my listeners. This one in here from Saribia at First National Bank at Airport City says, what aspect of social development as a country excites you the most and inspires a lot of hope for the future?
It is exciting now. So again, I like to tell stories, right? So whilst at Takoradi, I met this young lady who was telling me that, now Agrek no, why a fine pa me young benyi be also farming, and I was surprised, Now because we are also making a bit of noise around these kind of opportunities, I think it is also sending the right messages. There are a lot of incubators around, and I am excited to see many of them doing the job that they're doing, because we complement each other. I always tell those of us working in this space, and if you permit me, I'll say this. I look at myself now, and then I look at others that I've seen in the past who were at my position now. I always believed that they were going to make the country better. So those of us in the incubators, in this whole enterprise service providing space, the young people are looking at us with a lot of hope. Question is, are we going to disappoint them? And so I am happy that we have a lot of these incubators, but we also have to be thinking that, look, we are dealing with the future of many people, including our country and continent. And therefore, we always have to do the right things and learn how to collaborate and also be able to impact the space.
And then we need to amplify it as well. That's why platforms like ours is here. The work needs to be seen. We need to drum it in our ears so it stays with us. Another question in here from Freeman out of Bujo. He says, from your personal experiences, what are the attitudes young people must adopt in identifying their priorities and acting on them? I think you shared some in the past, but let's just go over it.
be courageous. At the same time, be humble. See, there's a difference between being cocky and being,
That's true.
courageous, right? Be courageous, be humble, learn and learn and learn.
Nice.
And ask questions. I didn't ask questions in the past.
You didn't even ask for
I
help.
didn't even ask for help. Ask, because people are mostly willing to give, but we just don't ask.
Mr. Gyan Kesse, so you seem to have a very busy schedule. I wouldn't want to add basketball as one of the things you do when you want to lay your hair down, but if you want to get off the work grid and you want to have time for yourself, let me also keep family out. Is there one thing or is there something you do love to spend your free time doing that people don't know beyond basketball and maybe spending time with your family?
I love music.
Okay.
I love, see, my kind of love for music is very interesting.
Okay. How interesting?
It's interesting because you would hear me play, you can hear me play 45, and
the next moment
I'm listening to a country music or a jazz music.
Okay.
So, and it all determines what I want to, because sometimes I want to be distracted because I have a lot of things going through my head and I want to take a break and it's not working. I have kind of music that helps me to, distract me to really take a pause. I'm learning how to do that. And, those that also gives you that deep and you really connect with other things that you want to do. I love movies. I do love movies a lot.
What type of movies do you love?
All kinds of movies. All kinds of movies. And I love documentary series. I learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
I learn a lot from there. And the youth, maybe, and attention. We have lots of platforms that you can learn. When I started this job as the agri-tech specialist, there were many things that I didn't know. And there are many things I still do not know. But for me, YouTube became a very good teacher. And I spent hours deep into the night learning, reading, watching videos and all of that about the space globally. And that is also one of the things that sometimes I do because I still want to pick new ideas and refresh myself. I read, but not as I used to, and not like before. But that's also something I do. So sometimes you see me doing multiple things. I like to do that a lot.
Okay. How do you feel about people in the creative arts sector? I mean, our very famous ones getting into agriculture. I think John is actively involved in agric. Samino was a farmer. I'm not very informed. I stand to be correct. I don't know if he's still in the business. I think the last time I checked, he was in school, trying to bag his degree. Do you think we owe it to our generation as creatives to amplify the need for us to pay attention to agric, whether we are involved in agric or not?
Absolutely. The nexus and the convergent points of entertainment and agriculture. So I'm going to say this, and I hope nobody comes to kill me.
They won't come for you.
So I actually connected with Kofi Kinata on LinkedIn. And he was very LinkedIn, yes.
Okay.
He was very open. And he's been traveling and he says he will get back to me. And I said to him that, look, I am looking for us to look at the convergent point between entertainment and agriculture. Young people are so, locked into entertainment. How do we leverage on that to really bring out another aspect? It could be not necessarily agriculture, but entrepreneurship or opportunities or how to do things as a young person. All right. So I'm hoping that with Slim, Kofi Kinata, with you, Rev, how do we really put together maybe a concert, for instance, and one message, one theme just running through about agriculture opportunities and all of that.
Agri-tech.
Agri-tech and all of that. So that's, I believe that you guys all have a responsibility to that. And maybe just to snitch on Slim, soon you'll be seeing Slim doing tilapia and then catfish farming, because this is something that we've been talking about and soon be happening.
We'll be glad. Slim loves food, so one of my fondest memories about Slim is, I mean, because I grew up in Kumasi, going back to Kumasi anytime was fun for me. And during our YFM days, when Slim was at Kumasi YFM, soon as you land in Kumasi, if you don't check in with Slim, you're under punishment. That's Slim's big brother, though. Yeah. So he will pick you up, send you straight to some joint in Asqua. I mean, I think the family house, there's one around Asqua. Send you there, and then you have to go and eat either something that has tilapia or catfish by force. And so I'm not surprised he's getting into it. I mean, it means more food for all of us, at some point. Mr. Gyan Kesse Benjamin, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. On behalf of YFM Global Media Alliance, the team mid-morning, my producers, we are grateful. He's a very busy man. He was in Takrady yesterday. We called on him and decided to come and spend time with us today. What we will do is try and further the conversation on the projects KIC has for young people. Try and pitch it on the Y Campus Express on Saturday. We'll definitely make that happen. But we're very grateful for spending time with us. Before you go, any final words, final piece of advice to all of us, including our listeners?
We never stop learning. And maybe the last one part of my life story that I shared, if it makes sense to anybody, even the fastest car has a reverse gear.
I like that.
If you're stuck at some point, there's no shame in backing up and restarting. You'll get there.
All right. So this is where we wrap up this morning on the Y Leaderboard series. Such an insightful interview with Mr. Benjamin Gyan Kesse, Executive Director for Kosmos Innovation Centre. Shared his life story with us. I know you picked yours. Whatever part of the interview you loved, 0202222073. We're open to your feedback. 0202222073. That's official WhatsApp line. So you can go back to Facebook and rewatch the interview. Facebook.com/Y1079FM. Big thank you to Carl Bank, to MTN Ghana, and Chocomo like Casaprem. 38 past 11. This is Y 107.9 FM.
Back with a bang. YFM. Every